Welcome to Beatsource Tech. My name is Mojaxx, and last summer I was delighted to see the return of Spanish manufacturer Ecler to the world of DJ equipment. They did that with the WARM4, an affordable 2-channel rotary mixer. And ever since that time I've been wondering what they would follow that up with. Well, today we're looking at the WARM4. I went into the history of Ecler's DJ mixers in the WARM4 review, so I won't do that again here. Check that one out for some useful context if you haven't already. But I'm pleased that the WARM4 has clearly done well enough for the company that they decided a bigger, more feature-packed rotary was the way to go for their next product, and the WARM4 is certainly that. It's priced at just under £1,400 here in the UK. I don't have US specific pricing, and I'm not sure what their distribution is like outside of Europe in general, but that's around double the price of the WARM4, and considering what's on offer, I think that's a reasonable proposition. Let's get the basics out of the way. The WARM4 has pretty standard dimensions for a 4-channel desktop mixer at just under 13.5 inches wide and around 14.5 inches front to back. That's in the ballpark of something like a DJM 900 Nexus 2, and you can take off the wooden side panels if you need a little more space. That means it will slot into most setups without any issue, and the layout will feel comfortable for those who are more used to regular club mixers. Aside from those wood panels, the WARM4 has all metal construction and feels very solid and reassuring in hand. As with all Ecler products, it's hand built in Spain, and you can absolutely feel the love and attention to detail which has been put into the design and construction. Speaking of metal, let's get this out of the way now. The use of plastic pots on the WARM4 was a whole thing. I explained in my review of that I was cool with them, but some end users really took against them. Well, Ecler have clearly heard that feedback because the WARM4 has metal pots throughout, all bolted to the faceplate. And whilst I was okay with the plastic pots on the 2, I won't deny that the metal ones do give the WARM4 a more solid and dependable feel, even if that doesn't necessarily translate to more durability. We'll talk sound next, and it's terrific. I've been happy but not surprised to see a number of reports from owners of the WARM4 who agreed with my assessment of the sound being excellent on that one. Ecler have always understood high quality analog sound and have been renowned for it over the years. The WARM4 has the kind of lively, spirited character you'd hope to hear from an analog mixer like this, living up to its name with a nicely rounded low end and buckets of clarity in the mids and treble, making for a very rich sound profile. I do have a more recent point of comparison for once, and that's the Master Sounds 4-valve Mark II, which I reviewed a few weeks back. The WARM4 doesn't have quite the same wallop in the low end as that one does, but in terms of resolution and detail elsewhere on the spectrum, the WARM4 acquits itself very well, despite costing just over half the price of that Master Sounds. The phono preamps are excellent too, responding well to both hi-fi and DJ carts with lots of headroom for different output voltages. You really can discern the differences between different carts, which to me is always a great sign. The summing is really good too. Get 2 or more tracks running in the mix and everything sits nicely together, with the gentle curve on the main rotaries allowing for very smooth gradual blends. I'm not actually sure where unity gain is meant to be on the WARM4, but I've been running it in the traditional rotary style at around 3 o'clock, and that seemed to work perfectly. Overall, I think the WARM4 sounds very good indeed for the money. You can spend another $1,000 or more and get into designs with discrete circuitry and valves, and yes, there may then be improvements to be heard, or you can spend a similar amount on a more boutique mixer and compromise on features. But considering the price point and feature set combined, I think you're getting sound which is absolutely excellent, and I'd be delighted to hear the WARM4 on any system, big or small. In terms of connectivity, there's a lot here on the WARM4. The 4 channels all have separate phono and line inputs on RCAs. Then channels 3 and 4 also have microphone inputs. Channel 3 has an XLR on the rear, and channel 4 has a combo jack and XLR socket on the top panel. As with the WARM4, these come with phantom power enabled by default, which means that the WARM4 will work fantastically well with condenser mics for radio or streaming use. That phantom power can be disabled with internal jumpers if needed. On the output side, we have house and booth outputs on balanced XLRs and unbalanced RCAs, as well as a dedicated record output on RCAs easily accessible on the top panel. Then finally there is a send and return loop also on RCAs. All very comprehensive, great for both home and install use, and I have zero complaints. You can even take off the right hand wood panel and find switches to adjust the booth and house outputs up or down by 12 dB, something rare to find on an analog DJ product like this. So let's take a look at the top panel, all the controls here on the WARM4. There's quite a lot to get into. We start with the main rotaries, which are Alps Blue Velvet pots and feel fantastic. They all feel basically the same. Nice amount of resistance, fresh out the box. Very smooth curve, perfect for those long blends, as you would hope for on a rotary like this. And once you get stuff running together, yeah, it works very, very nicely indeed. So I'm a big fan of those. Then we move on up to the isolator. This is very much like a performance isolator in terms of the way it cuts and boosts. It's a full cut and a 12 dB boost. Very musical with the cutoff points at 300 Hz and 4 kHz. Not as aggressive as something like a dope reel, but it is nice. You can work the track really well. So yeah, I really like that from a performance point of view, and the positioning of it as well, all really, really good. The one thing that's interesting about it is the switch to turn it off and on. The idea is that some DJs might want to turn it off to reduce phase distortion and what have you, and keep that more kind of pure signal chain, which I get, I do understand that. Although you've still got EQs and whatnot in the chain already, so I'm not sure how much benefit you're going to get from that, but obviously Ecler think it's worth having. The thing is though, it's not designed to be used as a performance feature because it is like a physical relay switch. And what they've done is put a slight delay on it to stop you using it as like a performance tool to cut it on and off. So first of all, let me just show you what it sounds like. There is a little noise there, it's like an electrical click almost. But it's not like a pop, you know, something really untowards. It's like this little kind of electrical click. And actually, if I turn the music down, you should be able to hear, hopefully the mic will pick this up. You can hear that relay switch kicking off and on, but it is delayed, so you can't do like this kind of thing. Can't like pop the isolator in or out, and I think that is designed to stop DJs trying to do that on the fly and therefore having that slight noise. So, but from my point of view, I just think just put it on the back then. Like, we don't need that switch there. Just, you know, most DJs probably won't use it, so just put it on the, you know, wire it out to the back of the mixer or something. I don't know. It's a interesting choice, but for me, I would just leave the isolator on all the time. It sounds great with the isolator engaged anyway, so I don't really care about any impact on the sound. But yeah, it doesn't take away from what is a fantastic isolator. It's really, really good. And I guess the only time I might want to disengage it is if I was doing like vinyl rips or something and wanted the cleanest sound possible. But yeah, on the whole, I'm just going to leave it engaged anyway, so I don't really feel the need to have the switch there. Anyway, but yeah, lovely isolator. We move up to the PFL, the Q circuit, which is fairly comprehensive with one little exception. So we have a illuminated Q button on each channel. We have a Q master blend knob, so PFL to mix. And we have a volume for that, lots of headroom, and both sizes of headphone socket here on the top panel, very nice. There's no split Q though, which is a little bit disappointing for me, as someone who does use in-ear monitors and likes to, you know, mix in the headphones. I would have liked split Q, but it's all good. It's kind of everything, I guess. Then we move on up to the send and return loop, which is really, really good. Okay, so I've got my EFX 500 hooked up. I'm going to switch it to post, and it's all done on the level knob, the send level, which means there's no noise, there's no pops or anything as you engage it. And because it's set to post fader right now, when I drop the main rotary, there you go, cut. We still get the echo tail. And you can set it to pre as well. So that way if I drop the main rotary, still send it. And it's also got a dedicated FX return level over here, and it's got a PFL for that as well, so you can cue the effects return before it comes back in. Again, I really like that. So overall, couldn't be happier with the send and return circuit. As I said, we'll move on to the Subharmonic synthesizer later. We'll do that in a separate section. We get to the EQs, and as it was on the WARM4, I really like the fact that you've got these EQs. They're full kill, so you can take the signal right out, plus 10 dB boost, and the cutoff points are different on the EQ to those on the isolator. So if we take out the bass with the isolator, that is different from when we take it out on the channel. And again, that's really nice. Just gives you a bit more flexibility, different ways to control the sound and sculpt the sound to your own taste. So yeah, very happy with those channel EQs. The other thing is we've got the trim control. That's got a very wide range on it, -15 to +15. So you have a lot of headroom up and down for different sources. So phono inputs, line inputs, different level outputs on your phono cartridges, etc. Plenty of headroom to work with, whatever kind of source you are using. Likewise on the mics on channels 3 and 4. So you've got phono and line on the first two, phono, line and mic on the second two. Metering is very good. You have the clear meters on each channel, and you have the main meters as well, which can be switched from house, which is the main output, to the mix level, which is pre-master, and the booth as well. And talking of the booth, we've got the house level there, booth level here, and then we have, this is fantastic, I love this, because this is something you often find on digital mixers, but rarely on analog stuff, certainly in this day and age. You have a balance control for the booth output, and a mono button, so left and right sums it to mono. So if you're in a booth and you've only got one booth monitor on one side, you can still get both channels into that booth monitor, which I really appreciate. That's something I come across a lot in my DJ life. And as you can see from the VU meters, we can pan it left or right, but yeah, that is a mono signal now going out to the booth, which I really love. So although there are a lot of controls here and it might look fairly complex, actually it's fairly straightforward. The only thing which is pretty complex is this Analogue Subharmonic synthesizer, which we'll take a look at separately. Let's talk about this Analogue Subharmonic synth then, a first on any DJ mixer as far as I'm aware. Ecler have made it clear that they were inspired by Richard Long's use of the DBX100 in the Paradise Garage system, and what I've taken from my reading on the subject is this. Thanks to the inherent limitations of vinyl as a format, you can only fit so much information into the grooves. Disco records in the 70s would usually roll off or just cut very low frequencies below 50 Hz. But Richard Long wanted those frequencies to be reproduced to enable the kind of super deep sub bass which really shakes your bones. And so, alongside a host of other tricks which made him one of the most legendary sound engineers of all time, he made use of the DBX100 subharmonic synth, which would take information between 50 and 100 Hz, synthesize a signal 1 octave lower and mix it back into the original signal. And that's basically what the subharmonic synth function on the WARM4 is recreating. You send a channel or multiple channels to the sub, which is on a separate bus, and adjust the frequency it will respond to with the top knob between 50 and 120 Hz. This will then generate a sound wave at 1 octave lower, so between 25 and 60 Hz. You then adjust the amount of the new signal fed back into the mix via the knob below, and there are green, yellow and red LEDs to show you the output levels. Does it work? Absolutely. One thing to note very clearly, if your speakers can't reproduce frequencies as low as it puts out, it will be completely wasted and possibly even damage them. So if you're playing with your WARM4 on some small near-field studio monitors only, you should probably stay away from the feature altogether. But hook up the WARM4 to a bigger system, or even a home or studio setup with a subwoofer or two, and the Subharmonic synth really does add something quite dramatic to the sound. Crucially, like the rest of the WARM4, the sub is all analog, so there's no artificial digital quality added to the sound. It just creates a cavernous analog sub bass to perfectly complement whatever you're playing. It even works with higher end headphones which are capable of reproducing those lower frequencies, although I wouldn't really recommend it, as it kind of feels like your skull is being crushed by sub bass.
I'm crushing your head! I'm crushing your head!
So the Subharmonic synth is an awesome feature, let's stick it on all DJ mixers from now on, right? Well, it's not quite that simple. Firstly, it demands your attention. Different records and even different parts of records will sing with the harmonic synth at different frequencies. It's absolutely not a set and forget kind of feature. You need to keep on top of it at all times to make sure you're working on the right frequencies and to keep the levels right. And let's also talk about using it on big systems in clubs, for example. If your monitors aren't really well matched with the main rig, you could be feeding out way more bass to the floor than you are hearing in the booth, perhaps to excess. And that brings me to my next point. Will many installers really be happy to give the average DJ who plays in their venue a giant bass go boom control on the in-house mixer? Ecler suggested to me that most modern club systems have advanced processing which can limit the excursion of the drivers to protect them, but I'd suggest they aren't considering the majority of systems I've played on in my career, sadly. And there's no way to disable the feature internally or externally. It's always there waiting to be used, whether in the right or the wrong hands. It's a fantastic feature when used correctly and thoughtfully, but I do have concerns that it will be dangerous in the wrong hands and could scare off installers and the people who spec out DJ booths in venues, who otherwise might find the WARM4 to be an appealing prospect. Because aside from the fact it's got rotary pots instead of faders, there's not much on the WARM4 which would freak out a DJ who is more used to, say, a Zone or a DJM. The layout is familiar and comfortable, it has regular EQ controls, it's reasonably affordable. I really could see the WARM4 taking centre stage in many venues which value sound quality. But with no way to disable the bass go boom control, I fear that may cause some folks to err on the side of caution and spec something more vanilla instead. Which is a bit of a shame, as the WARM4 on the whole is a really excellent piece of kit and would make a fantastic club mixer. So there you go, my thoughts on the WARM4 from Ecler. My overall conclusion is best summed up in how I think about the Subharmonic synthesizer. Bear with me on this, right? It's weird. Okay, it's an unusual feature. It is something you don't see every day or indeed at all on DJ mixers. And in the wrong hands, it could be a bit of a horror show. It could be disastrous. But in the right hands, with a DJ who understands how it's supposed to work and can use it correctly and with restraint, it could be an incredible tool for leveling up your DJ sets. And that's why I love Ecler. That's why I've always loved Ecler stuff, because it's just a bit different. It's a bit quirky. They weren't worried about, oh, okay, is this going to fit into every DJ booth in the world? No, they were like, yeah, we want to make this feature. We think it would be cool. We're going to put it on the mixer. And yes, it's cool. Alright, it's quirky, it's a little bit off base, it's a little bit weird, but it's cool. And that's what Ecler have always been about. They've never been afraid to innovate and to try different stuff and put things into their products which other companies, especially the big names, would not think of doing. So I love the WARM4 for that. You know, that subharmonic synth is probably a feature I would rarely, if ever, use in my performances, but that doesn't detract from the rest of the mixer. You know, the legendary Ecler sound quality still absolutely there with their new products, and the build quality there. They've got the metal pots on there now. They're listening to their customers. So all of it, just the basics of it as a mixer, the way it feels to perform on, really, really good stuff. But then they've got that Ecler slightly sideways kind of way of looking at things, and they bring in features which you might not expect, but once you get to know them, you could well learn to love them. In the comments this week, tell us about your favorite quirky products. It could be a product as a whole or a quirky feature on a product which was otherwise fairly normal. So it could be something from a long time ago, you know, the analog days, something digital, something that's not around now, or something that you're still using today. Let us know your favorite quirky bits of DJ tech in the comments below. Thank you for watching this episode of Beatsource Tech. I do hope you've enjoyed it or found it useful. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. I'll see you next time.